Greetings, greetings, family. Sister Shanice in the house. We are live. Welcome, welcome to another Sister Shanice show. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic program tonight. I was just speaking to our wonderful guests behind the scenes a little while ago. Slight disconnection problem, but he will be back uh, very, very shortly with us, family. And so, as you come through the door, we want to welcome you. We want to rise you up. We want to thank you so, so much for joining us this evening for what is going to be another fantastic show. Our guest, yes, I can see he's just preparing himself backstage. And for this show this evening, family, we really want you to reflect on your life. We want you to see the leadership potential that lies inside of you. We want you to think of what your purpose is for living. Are you living your best life or are you just existing? You are here for a purpose. Every single one of us has a purpose. We have dreams. Make sure you are pursuing your purpose. Make sure you're pursuing your dreams. You have skills, you have talents. Think about what the stories are going to be in your older years when you tell your stories to your grandchildren. What are the great exploits that you are going to be able to share with them? What are the great things that you are going to be able to tell them that you have done? What are your grandchildren are going to be thinking about you and how you lived your life? So remember, now is the time to exercise those talents, to exercise those skills, to exercise that potential. And our wonderful guest this evening, he's going to be drawing those leadership skills and talents and potential and that greatness that you have wrapped up inside of you. He's going to be pulling that out. We need people who are going to be courageous enough to pursue your greatness. So make sure that you hold on tight to your seats tonight and that you have your pens ready to make notes. And as you come through the door, please do let us know that you're in the house. I can see my guest. I think he is ready backstage. So I'm going to bring him forward. We are really excited, family, to have, our beloved brother back with us on the Sister Shanice show. Welcome, our beloved brother, King Joshua Maponga. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and greetings to you and all your viewers around the world. Another day, another opportunity to make a difference. I thank you.
Oh, absolutely. We thank you so, so much. We recognize the challenges that we're up against with the power cuts and the load shedding that's going on where you are, but we're believing that the ancestors are going to take control and give us the power that we need in order for you to be able to empower us this evening. So, family, spread the word. Our beloved brother, Mponga J, the second, Marara Shanga Mbiri is in the house. How did I do?
You're doing fine. I think try and accept me on the other line. It will be much better. My computer has just responded. We can just try and see if we can switch between the lines there. But yes, Changambire. Yeah.
We're delighted to have you so into us today. Do you need to do anything technical for a moment or two? Do you need to set up for a moment or two as the audience comes through the door?
We can fly, but I'm trying to see if you can accept me on the other line. I'm backstage on my computer. Just see which picture is better.
At the moment, I'm only seeing one, but as soon as I see the other one, I'll switch between the two. But this one looks great. This one looks great.
Okay.
If another one comes up and it looks better, we will fly with that one. So
that's fine.
Family, we are excited. I mean, those of you who watched the show the last time our brother was on, you will remember he left with us some really important tools, some tools that we can use so that we can look at situations from an 8-dimensional perspective. And, we've been using that on my radio shows. We've been talking about these the 8-dimensional perspectives there, and we've been trying to apply it, you know, to our learning. And I certainly hope that you have been doing that too, family. If you haven't, please do check out the earlier show. So we're just going to give the audience 1 or 2 more minutes to come through the door, and then we're going to start. And so for those of you who are in already, Mr. JC Black, we welcome you. Brother Gare, we welcome. Okay, I can see the other one that's come through now. Put one on mute. Need to mute one of them. Let's try this one here and move you here. Okay, this is a lovely, got a lovely cool color to it as well. So shall we go with this one?
I think let's go with this one, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All righty. We got Brother Geb in the house, watching us all the way from the USA. We've got Chinosos in the house, watching us from Israel. Welcome. We've got Sister Afrijamo flying the flag for Ghana. We have KZ flying the flag for Uganda. Our brother Maxim's in the house, who I know is from the Cameroon, I think, or the Congo. Remind me. We've got Sister Doreen in the house from Dunstable. Welcome, welcome. Sister Verna's in the house from Phenomenal Black Women. Welcome, welcome. We welcome each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're watching us from. We've got Kranzimbo watching us from South Africa and Zimbabwe. Oh, we've got Zachary in the house from Chicago, Illinois. Oh, wow, wow, wow. We've got an international family, our international family coming through the door. Really excited. Well, I am going to just introduce our wonderful guests who we've got this evening so that I can step out of the way. And you haven't frozen there, have you? Oh, wow. Oh, I was just about to introduce our guest and I realized that his camera has frozen. So yeah, as you come through the door, let us know where in the world you are watching us from. We are about ready to go. They're doing some load shedding in South Africa right now, so we're going to get a little bit of interference, but as soon as he can, our guest will be back with us. So in the meantime, just let me know, as I say, if you've got any questions, any messages, we will be turning to those a little later in the show, okay? So, yeah, please do post those thoughts, questions, and opinions in the chat. So while I wait for our brother to rejoin us, as I said, some load shedding going on. Let me just remind some of you of some of the 8-dimensional things, the 8-dimensional way of thinking that our brother shared with us the last time he was in the house. And these are really priceless tools that you can use, especially as leaders, because as leaders, you're going to be presented with situations where you're going to need to make decisions. You're going to be presented with situations where you're going to have to consider, you know, what is in the best interest of you, your people, your citizens, your family, your nation, you know, depending on the position that you have. And so quite often when you're presented with information, it's presented to you at face value. But what our King was showing us is that we can't just look at things from on a face value. We've got to look at it from a 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, right up to an 8-dimensional perspective. He's back in the house. So let me park that there and bring our leader back in the house. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. We will get there. I think I'm doing all things by myself. I need a technical team now to be working behind the machines and press some buttons for me. But we want to discuss a very interesting subject today: how to become a good, effective leader in the 21st century. And I will start off our conversation with a famous quotation, which was done by William Shakespeare. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. I'll say that one more time. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. It gives us the three dimensions or three paradigms I would like us to consider. Firstly, for what I would want to term the call to leadership. There are some who are born into the offices of leadership. You are looking at royalties, you are looking at administrators, you are looking at people who inherit their father's businesses, who inherit heritages and estates, where you have no option but to become a leader. You're born there, and you just have to fit in, learn on the ropes, and get the job done. But it's expected out of you. This is what you must do. So that's group number one. And those, unfortunately, they don't have much of a choice except to master on the 8 dimensions. They need to master leading from the bottom. You know, what is the history of this organization that I'm leading? Where are we coming from? Then from the side, then from the top, then from the front. They can go back and revise those notes. If you are born in that space and it's required out of you to deliver certain objectives within the expectations of your leadership role, then you have to pull up your socks and improve on what your forefathers, your ancestors, your parents would have left in your hands. Group number 2 are those that achieve greatness. These are the students of leadership. These are the ones who would want to pursue a career in leadership. Group 2 is a conscious decision where you notice there's a gap on the market. There's a gap on the workplace. There's a gap in a family. There's a gap in an organization. And someone says, but I can do this. I can do this. And they put their heads around it, study it. Remember that, practice can beat talent. So there are those who are talented with leadership. But if you can study it and you master it, you can equally become as effective as those that have natural giftings in this direction. I always consider gifts to be a forest full of trees. And until you learn the skill of converting trees to tables and chairs, you remain talented with your forest of resources, your forests of gifts. But even those gifts are useless in their natural state until they are polished so that they can be useful to everybody else. But those who practice can equally become competitive, because like public speaking, you can learn that. Like driving, you can learn that. Like cooking, you can learn that. Then the secret is your interest and your innovation. Are you doing it simply because you want to do it, or you want to become best at doing it? Then you go ahead and study. You go ahead and learn. You go ahead and find mentors who can sit with you and assist you. You take good examples. Study. Go and buy this book, the top 100 leaders in the world, the top 1,000 speeches ever given in the world, and study some of these literatures and see what the world calls the best. What does it look like? And how can you also benchmark your journey with those that have made it ahead of you? So that's group number 2, those that achieve it, those that put a program out there. And again, while you're doing leadership, I would suggest that you need also to study nature. You need to study the environment. You need to study ecology. You need to look at the way the buffaloes do their leading, study the ants. Ants are the most intelligent of all animals on the face of the earth. They only work for 6 months. The rest of the 6 months, they're sleeping. And even the book of Proverbs says, go to the ants and study how they work. You sluggard, you stupid fool, go and sit with the ants, and you will see that they only work for a few months. They gather their food. They have no one who is leading them, but they work with precision. And in wintertime, they're enjoying their food. So if you see yourself working in winter, you are more stupid than an ant, because ants can only do
6 months, and 6 months it will break. Study the geese, how they fly for thousands of kilometers across the oceans, across the Himalayan mountains. What is their strategy for leadership? How do they mobilize themselves and achieve such objectives? Shores of fish, small little fish, how they maneuver around the bigger fish. How do they do that? How do they form those big structures to scare off the other fish? And so for me, nature, including the trees, how do trees stand and avoid being blown off by the wind? Because they are able to join their roots at the bottom, so that the strength of one tree is also enforced by the other tree. That's why forests stand in the midst of the storm. Trees that try to stand alone, they always suffer, victim of floods and storms, because yes, the roots can hold, but you are not as stronger as the person next door to you. And when you look at some of these technologies, Sister Shanice, then it also becomes quite exciting for me in terms of our technology of architecture, that we might need to start learning. How do we build buildings that have a united foundations? How do we create, like China, India, Malaysia, Turkey, where we have all these volcanoes and landslides, and are we not learning something from the forests, that trees join their foundations, then they stand as individuals? So how about you, governments? You identify a place where you must build your buildings, go there and build huge foundations for 10, 15, 20, 30 buildings. And then these buildings can shoot up from the ground, but they are all getting support from each other. If there were technical people here, architecture, I think they would hear some sense in what I'm saying, because then you're using very simple technologies which look us in the eye every day, but then we miss it altogether. So those who want to achieve greatness, you need to study models of leadership and find out your own models. What made Hitler a leader, what made, how dictatorship, methods and modes of governance, from democracy, theocracy, meritocracy, and what. So you need to get your heads around the whole monster called leadership and see what it involves. And then the last group are those who have greatness thrust upon them. These are the lucky ones who happen to be at the right place at the right time, and peradventure, serendipity, the blanket and the cloth of leadership is thrown on their shoulders, and they the blanket of leadership miraculously ends up on their shoulder. The mantle of leadership ends up on their shoulder. Then again, favor, when favor comes like that, the question is, how do you harness that favor and convert it into your advantage? So for an introduction, I'll give you those three. Those that are born great, they're already in positions of leadership from scratch. If you are a parent and you know you have a business, then introduce your child early to what you're doing. You're in media, introduce your child early in what you're doing, so that by the day you close your eyes, they can just sit in your shoes and they continue. Those that achieve greatness, study, learn, master the art, do it to the best of your ability. Those that are fortunate just to have the mantle of leadership on their shoulders, then how do you manipulate advantage, luck, serendipity to your advantage and maximize on that? I thank you.
Oh, we thank you so much for that powerful opening there. Well, as you was talking about number 2 and the forest that stand together, but the foundation that interlocks, it got me thinking about the African leaders and the 55 or 56 African states. And it got me wondering, and I wonder if you could, maybe suggest how they could build that solid foundation so that they're interlocked, even while standing as independent leaders. Well, I'm sure
We-
there's
what we are sharing here, we are sharing quite high level quality of information, and without necessarily, becoming sounding political. Those that are wise can be able to pick up the nuggets and put that information together. The fact that African presidents want to stand each one as an individual, to fight China, to fight America, to fight Europe, to fight India. You can't. You cannot have 36 million people competing with 1.3 billion Chinese people. By muscle, by power, by finance, by technology, they'll beat you on any day. But you tell me that if the 54 leaders can understand this simple principle, how do we build and join and connect our foundations together as a continent? What sort of strength will Botswana find from South Africa? Will Mozambique find from Kenya? Will Somalia find from Congo? Will Benin find from Guinea? And then you would find that the concept of common currency, common, immigration issues, common political affiliations, university education, medical facilities, learning, technological sharing platforms, stock exchanges, and you could go to town to actually begin to unbundle, where we say we are drinking from the same nutrients on the ground. We are on this ground together. When it rains, it does not rain on you only, it rains on all of us. And when there is a storm, it's not a storm on only you, it's on all of us. Once we begin to think in that plural leadership rather than the singular model which the African leaders are using right now, the singular leadership, which even gives room to opposition politics. And then you ask yourself, what is the opposite of your country? You cannot have an opposition party in a country. Call it an alternative party, because you are still going to be working with the same people that right now you say they are opposites to you. So this whole thing creates enmity between brothers, and it becomes a competition of power. People are more interested in party politics rather than nation politics. And nations live longer than parties. Leaders come and go, but the countries remain where they are. So yes, it's a great lesson we can learn right there. How do we join the roots of our resources, the roots of our cultures, the roots of our wealth, our gold, our cobalt, our platinums, our uraniums, our copper, our coal, our magnesiums, our coffees, and put all these resources together as a solid foundation from where every country, even the weakest amongst us, can actually be able to draw strength from those that are strong amongst us. One grain of grass can break easily, but once you bundle them together into a broom, you can't break them. So even the weakest amongst us can become the strongest. And I think the quality of leaders who are moving, particularly for Africa, I want to become very specific, particularly the African leaders, we need to start thinking unity as a solution, just unity on its own, as a solution to the exploitation of the West, the East, and the North. So yes, as trees join, as ends work together. So I think African leaders also can think, work together, and build these foundations that can sustain these soft currencies that we are trapped in. I thank you.
We thank you. Yes, indeed. I mean, that was just such a powerful image there. And, that can happen, I would imagine, on all levels. You said there's leadership qualities in all of us. Some are born leaders. Some of us will have to work towards becoming leaders. So what is your advice, to build on what you said, to those who have leadership potential but need to work on drawing the leadership qualities out? What are the steps maybe that they can take? Because there's leadership needed in every single family. Families build communities, community build nations. So You know, we're building for the future. Please give us some more guidance there in terms of drawing out. What do we need to do to draw out these leadership qualities?
Then the next level after the introduction of the call to leadership, the next level, then I would want to frame it into understanding your audience, understanding your people, understanding your community, which I might want to call SI, social intelligence, as contrasted to IQ, as contrasted to EQ, emotional intelligence. I would want to introduce something called SI, which is social intelligence, SI. And in social intelligence, then any leader, if you want to be a leader, there's a book that I wrote entitled So You Want to Be a Master, which actually speaks to this subject. So you want to become a leader. What is it that you must then do? What is it that you must understand? So it will take you some moments to stop fantasizing power and begin what I might want to call a needs analysis, an NA, a needs analysis, where you walk around your community and study your community, learn your community. What do they speak? What do they cry about? What do they drink? How do they travel? How are they studying and learning? What are they worshiping? What are the threats to that community? The weather patterns, quality of crops that they're eating, diseases that are affecting them, inter-community relationships that speaks of your foreign policy. So you as a leader, therefore, you don't wait in your echelon of fantasy, of thinking you know what the people need. You need to get off your high horse and go down where the community is. Stop driving around the community, walk the community. Sit with the elders in the community. Listen to the old women sharing their pain, their challenges. Visit the orphanages, visit the grazing fields, visit the shanty towns, visit the mines, visit the dance halls, visit the dumping sites. Find people there who are picking stuff from the dumping site. Visit the offices, visit the bus terminuses, the wrecks, jump into the local taxis and sit in the local pubs and restaurants and hear what the people are saying. I think the greatest danger of African leadership are these tourists who are totally out of sync with their community. Because I can't understand a man who, from Guinea, for example, who can donate 20, 30, 50 million to repair some statues in France. I wonder if that man has walked his own community to see if that 30, 40 million cannot be useful, maybe less than a kilometer from his house, as to who would need that. I wonder these leaders who go to France to be drinking moyettes, eating caviar, and if they know exactly what is the condition of their own societies. I wonder if these leaders who buy expensive limousines and cars and Rolls Royces, 7, 8 bodyguards on every side, and if they really understand the roads in which other people are traveling in. And so there is a need, number one, for a CI, social intelligence, where you as a leader maybe stop imposing your ideas on people and hear what the people are saying. Hear what the people are saying. Understand the plight, the tears, the worries, the pain of your own communities. Step down a little bit from your entourages and motorcades and stop a little bit, stop a little while, enter those classrooms where those children are learning and try and understand the quality of education these children are receiving. So plug in, number one, plug in to your society, plug into your environment, plug into your community, understand what the community needs. And then you, with your leadership model, begin to give solutions to those problems. And remember, you don't need money to do this. You need knowledge. And when you find out what the community needs, this is an idea for business. Businesses that are sustainable are not businesses that make money, but they're businesses that are solving people's problems and people are willing to pay for those services. Now, that's a business idea. So if there's a problem right now, like in Zimbabwe, there's a problem of power, then solve the problem. We are willing to pay. If there's a problem of water, solve the problem. So we don't want politicians and leaders who are just leaders in words. We want leaders who are incubant of solutions, those who come into our communities strictly to help us solve the problems of the community. I thank you.
Yes, I thank you. Let me just add myself back. Oops, here I am back again. We thank you to leaders that solve problems, leaders that are on the ground doing the footwork, leaders who are talking to the people, getting to know their people, and what the problems are. Some brilliant advice there. I'm sure the sort of leadership training that a lot of us may have had in the schools would suggest that the leader sits on top and everyone else does all of the work for us. So, you know, this is a new style of leadership and an important leadership style as well. I think many of us see leaders, well, don't even see our leaders, but the leaders ought to be among the people. Wow. So you're just grooming a new cohort of leaders here now. So family, those of you who are thinking of becoming leaders, plug yourself into your community, walk the community and get to know what the needs are. You mentioned there as well, King, that, you know, there are needs and we need to identify those needs because there are business opportunities. And you particularly mentioned about, and we saw earlier, that there's power shedding, load shedding going on in Zimbabwe. I know this happens in South Africa. There may well be some people who are watching who have some technological skills or have businesses in that field. How could they maybe go about assisting? This is precisely what we're talking about, family. So if you have a business that's in the technology field and you can help Zimbabwe or you can help South Africa to overcome the load shedding problems, they need you. Maybe this is where the diaspora can come in. Maybe this is where the diaspora can get involved. Let's just go over and hear what some of the comments are. So KZ is saying that African leaders need to be removed. There are all puppets. Africa won't grow with them staying in power. That may well be the case, and I'm sure most of us would agree with you, KZ. That's why, you know, the leadership session that we're having today is so important, because we need a new breed of leaders. We recognize the shortcomings of the current leaders that we have. And so, you know, our King is inculcating, you know, and putting into our spirit what leadership really ought to be about. Welcome back. We were talking about the challenges of technology. Please do make an appeal to the diaspora, you know, who are listening from around the world, who may well have businesses, but don't know that their needs are required right now on the continent. Can I go over to you to put a call out, please, to such business people?
No, the business community, if they think we have something to contribute, then all we're asking for is to make sure that we have facilities to share this information with you. So for a start, it is actually just the entire media space itself. Nice little Apple machines also, and cameras and lights. Then we can be able to give you the content, and we share the content that we are doing the best we can with the little that we have. But I think when facilities of better quality come into space, surely we should be able to compete with the Alexander Forbes of this world, because I think we also have what it takes to build our own indigenous knowledge systems with correct support. So if anyone wants to contribute in that direction, in terms of us building a nice world-class studio where we can run these lessons and run these programs, cultural exchange programs, and etc., they're more than welcome to participate and contribute on that platform. And I thank you.
Thank you. So family, you've heard it. If you can in any way contribute towards the building of a world-class online platform that can be used to deliver online training, we need you. We need you on board. King has just put out a call for you. So let's go back now. We've heard the call to leadership. We have heard, what's the first steps ought to be in the direction of preparing yourself to become a leader. So let's go back to you now for the next steps, please.
The next step is a personal journey. You've been to the community. You've seen what the community needs. Before you can start doing anything, you need to start with yourself. This now speaks to what I call personal leadership. You need to be aware as a leader that you are colonized. Just as an admission, you need to know that the quality of information that you have is colonial information. The quality of development that you have is colonial development. The quality of business and industries that you want to build are colonial industries. The banking systems are colonial. So you need to put yourself, and I'm speaking to the young leaders who are going to be effective towards the next generation. You need to move over into what I want to term a decolonization program, a detoxification program. Many of our leaders think that they're leaders because they can quote Marcus Garvey and quote a few Pan-African writers. You can be able to quote some few quotations of Sankara and Nyerere and Martin Luther, Malcolm X, and you think that because you can quote these speakers and leaders in our ancestral space, it also qualifies you to become a leader. No, you need to do what I might call a decolonization project for yourself. Decolonization means the solutions that you're going to be bringing, they need three very important pillars. Pillar number one, are these solutions indigenous? If they are not indigenous, how do you co-opt indigenous solutions into the colonial solutions so that you can have a sustainable, long-term solution? You cannot, for example, say the problem of hunger, we're going to solve it with genetically modified foods, and genetically modified foods don't have seeds. And because they don't have seeds, you're still going to be stuck with the Monsantos and GMO food supplies from the West. And those foods come with pesticides, feed. So you need to find out if you're dealing with a food shortage or food solution, is it indigenous? Is it culturally correct? Is it sustainable? Is it situated in the environment where it is coming from? Because some of these politicians and some of these leaders who bring solutions, and those solutions are not indigenous, then they create another form of slave market where you push your community back into the slavery where you're trying to take them away from. So the solutions must be, number one, they must be indigenous. Number two, the solutions must be enculturated. They must be sensitive to the culture in which you are implementing these things, because many programs have failed because people don't identify with those projects. I've lived in South Africa for quite some time. I've seen students and communities banning schools, banning hospitals, banning streets, banning tarred roads, and vandalizing state property. And you ask yourself, why? Because they've never owned those properties. They always feel these things belong to them. The community was never encultured into owning these resources. They never contributed a brick. It is this balloon kind of leadership where someone just pops in with a building. Hey, push out, move away, move away. We're going to put a clinic here. Boom, the clinic is standing. Hey, move away. We're going to put a police station here. We're going to put a school here. We're going to put a road here. Please move your houses away. And when you push people in that fashion, when these structures are standing, the question is, people feel like these things don't belong to them. So you need what you call stakeholder management. You need a community to buy into those things. And I want to term that enculturation. So indigenization is number one. Are the solutions indigenous? Are they known for continuity in the community where you're bringing them? Number two, are these solutions cultured? Do they tap into the cultural psyche of the community where you're bringing these solutions to? So indigenization, enculturation, and lastly, contextualization. Contextualization then speaks to, in what context are you putting these solutions? What are the short term? What are the medium term? And what are the long term? What is the context of this issue that you are dealing with? And it is of no consequence that you can try to be selling sand to the people that are living in the desert. The context of the solution itself. Therefore, you don't want to come around and bring some foreign-based solutions into an environment and these things become white elephants because the people and their context of life cannot even relate to the solutions that you are bringing. Who said Africans need hospitals? Yes, they need hospitals so that they can treat their diseases and etc. But how about we think about the indigenous hospitals that we have been using for the longest of time? How about we develop indigenous midwives and create clinics around them? How about we create health facilities within the context of the environment itself so that people actually can feel a bit of what they are, and a bit of what you're bringing in is bringing up a solution that is right there. And I think that people think that civilization and development is converting Africa into a concrete jungle, like New York, like Manhattan, like Brooklyn, but after you have built another London, question, what quality of water will people be drinking from the Thames River, which is one of the dirtiest rivers in the world? So at what expense is this civilization coming into the community? And I think, having said that, contextualization, indigenization, enculturation are three key pillars every leader must be sensitive to when they are implementing projects, because that's where sustainability sits. I thank you.
We thank you again. Totally new. I've done so many leadership training programs and I've never, come across this kind of teaching. It is phenomenal. This is what, family, I knew we would be getting on this from our king, a totally new way of thinking and understanding what the role of a leader ought to be from an African-centered perspective. Wow. So, we've got our next steps there to decolonize, our leadership mindset and to be putting, our citizens and our needs really at the forefront of our mind. Wow. So we've done the research, now the personal journey. and you know, we're decolonizing, making sure it's culturally appropriate and it's indigenous, and we're bringing back now, you know, all of our indigenous ways of doing things that maybe we've lost along the way of the kind of by adopting all these Western ways of doing things. So we've got our 3 key pillars. This is really exciting learning. Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much already. What next, King Makonda?
Next is what we will want to term mobilization. Mobilization. So now this speaks to you identifying like-minded people. This now speaks to the science and technology of creating, marshalling, collecting an army together. By army, I just don't mean soldiers and guns and bullets, but I'm talking about now sourcing out people, technocrats, community technocrats, cultural technocrats, technological technocrats, you know, business technocrats, people within your environment. Do not gather too many politicians around yourself and you call yourself a leader where everything is in agreement. Viva, viva. All in favor say aye, aye. You know, that kind of leadership is destroyed Africa greatly, where people simply gather together, agree on anything. And when they agree on anything, they destroy everything. Even this demon crazy concept of democracy and etc. does not work in terms of proper African leadership, because democracy is coming with its own colonial mindsets, which totally disrespect, devalue the local people, and to enforce a colonial culture which is foreign to the people. And at the end of the day, you have made coconuts out of the community. Those that are thinking, whose thinking has become Eurocentric, but whose bodies are still African, melanated, black bodies. Mobilization, therefore, speaks of you calling the elders together, calling the young people together, calling the women together, and sharing your information with the people. Get the buy-in of the community. Mobilize people. Mobilization must be inclusive. It must be inclusive so that your pulse and your finger must be with the community. You don't end up as a tourist, a leader who is all by himself, running in the front, and everyone else has been left behind, as we discussed on the paradigms of thinking. That if you spend too much time at the front and you run too much with the front part, you may actually discover that you have left everyone else behind. Mobilization speaks to gathering people in the community and putting an intelligent software of human power, human capital, human investment, and sharing ideas together. And you should be able to know that when you are a leader, the whole community belongs to you. My grandfather would always tell me, son, when you are a king, everyone in the community is yours. This includes the witches, the thieves, the murderers, the criminals, the church people, the social people, everybody is yours. And therefore, a good king will never quench his thirst by drinking the blood of fools. Strong words he left in my spirit. So leadership is not about finding who agrees with you, who does not agree with you, but it is putting people together for a common goal, for a common cause. So after personal inventory and personal decolonization, I would suggest we move to the next level, which is now mobilization. How do you mobilize a community towards common goals? And this takes me back to our ancient times when families would call each other up to come and work together on their own fields, where we share food together, we share, labor together. And this in the Kwanzaa concept, it's well illustrated in our self-determination of working together, the Ujamaa principles. How do we come together as a community? Now we have identified the problem. You know the problem. You go back and say now to the community, how do we solve this problem as a community? And begin to hear their buy-in, and then collect those minds that are willing to working together. Building of the pyramids was not an individual task. Those are projects you must look at. How do you get so much work done? How do you build such huge structures? The Great Zimbabwe, pyramids and castles and temples of Peru. You look at the temples of Ethiopia. You look at all civilizations past. How did they come together to build these superstructures? Look at the Dubai model. How do you put these things together? That moves us to level number 4, which now becomes the sourcing of resources. I thank you.
Well, we thank you again for that, King. Mobilization. Wow. So this, as I was saying, I mean, if you've just joined us, you've missed so much. You're going to have to just review this on catch up. We're dealing with leadership. And as I was saying, I've done so many leadership training courses, but never before, have I learned so much as what I'm learning now, because this is a totally new way of thinking, new concepts, new leadership style. From an African-centered perspective, it's phenomenal. We're talking about building strong leaders here, family. Working together, we've just done about mobilization now, and the importance of not just having yes men around you, but mobilizing people based on maybe their professional skills and abilities and talents, and making sure that they are there advising and guiding you and working with you and alongside you. And yeah, he's posed that great question: how did we manage to build these great kingdoms and great cities? We've got to be thinking about that and be thinking about building pyramid style again. So we've gone to the mobilization stage. What is the next stage now, King Maponga?
The next one will be funding models, the economic funding models that we can use for leadership and transforming our communities. And I say this with great pride, that the communities usually don't need much money than they need to understand the power of unity. And when it comes to finances, people think it's money that is needed out there. I beg to differ. To a large extent, every community can sustain, can build itself. If, like we grew up, every family wanted to build a school, the school that I went to, right in the farms there in Bikita, we were expected to bring a brick, I think every 2 weeks or every week, to bring a brick to school. All the students, every week we're supposed to bring, each student must bring a brick. The school is standing as I'm talking to you right now. We have had communities who have contributed a chicken, 2, 3, 4 chickens per family. In a community that has 20,000 people, and if you collect 60,000, 100,000 birds, chickens, and you put them together, there is a hospital standing there. So that by the time you are talking about external funding, the stakeholder ownership of the community must entail that the people must be prepared and willing to buy into your vision. People must be willing to buy into their own solutions. And external funding will come in at the end. But from the onset, the community itself must feel indebted to itself, to help itself. They must be empowered to know that they can get out of this. So it speaks to what I might want to call a community chest. A community chest, therefore, is a place where, as a community, we can come together, bring our logs to build something, bring our bricks, bring something, bring our chickens, bring our goats, bring our cows, each family. Because once you have the buy-in of the community, then the sky is the limit. Everybody in the community will be willing to invest into that. In the event that the money is little, then you can get the investment that the community has given you and see how do you now multiply that into a big business. For example, if they give you 60,000 birds, then you can see how many of those birds can you take and breed and etc. and sell, and then create a chicken running farm, or create an animal husbandry platform, or create a brick making environment platform where you can build your stuff, excess of it, you sell to the community, and the resources of your B. So the first one is local participation in terms of buy-in. Secondly, will be external funding that is coming from outside. But C speaks to the leadership of those communities, particularly royalties. That of all the mines and all the resources, the forests that are sitting in your authority as tribal authorities, we need to make sure that the percentage, the CSI, corporate social investment of those projects, be the mining and etc., which are taking place, must be harvested into the community and must benefit the community where these resources are readily available. So you already have your three forms of funding. That is, you can use your individual funding, you can use your community funding, you can use external donors who are coming in. But once donors come into space, then we also need shareholders, agreements to participate, the community within those projects. And that, for me, will give you a much better model, which then includes the community in participating in transforming their own environment. But we don't need handouts from nobody. We need to put the community together to solve its own problems. We need to have the buy-in, convince our people, and they need to wake up from this idea that we are poor, we have nothing, we would want donor money, we want this, people are just waiting, holding baskets of waiting for alms and donations. We are not that poor. We are not that hopeless. We have great amount of resources that are within our disposal. The question is, how do we convert these resources into means of production, value chains, and we can trade, make money, and transform our own communities? So there's a big gap, and the gap is for leadership. Who will lead these communities and transform their minds from being beggars to becoming champions of transformation within their environments? So the funding model must be personally driven, family driven, community driven, external driven, and business networks and agreements together with corporates that are doing businesses within your environment, so that the resources of a community must be retained within those communities. Every time a truck drives out of our villages with raw materials, it is taking away jobs, industries, and factories. The question is, how do we beneficiate our resources and use those resources as a means of funding our own projects to do the things that we want to do as a community? I thank you.
Well, we thank you too. Again, let me exit solo layout. Thank you so much again. Wow, we are learning so much here, navigating through the whole financial way of thinking now. Again, a whole new world opens up for us, a whole new way of thinking opens up for us when we start to think along the model that you've given us. You know, looking at how we can resource ourselves at a local level before we even consider any external funding. Absolutely agree. You know, this kind of beggar model has to go in the future. It has to go now. And if young people are watching right now and are taking on board, you know, the suggestions here, look, how to build a school. Every child bring a brick every week. Every child brings a brick. In no time, you know, a whole new school classroom will be built, then another classroom will be added. And, you know, over the years, if that continues, an entire new school, absolutely phenomenal, a wonderful vision we've just been given there that could help, you know, move us from being regarded as a nation of beggars to a nation that is utilizing its resources itself to build itself. Wow, wow, wow. That is phenomenal there. Uh, so now, you know, we've mobilized all of our professionals. We've started to think creatively about how we can finance, you know, our initiatives, finance, you know, the new cities that we want to be building. What next?
I think the last step then will be recognition, rewards, and affirmations. How do you then begin to create monuments of recognition around your communities? How do you reward hard work within your communities? Now, if you walk around these cities, these colonial cities, you'll find all these concrete, statues of the colonizers who came there as a constant reminder of how this city comes to what it is. And I think within this context also, we need to see how do we reward, how do we appraise, how do we recognize and affirm those individuals within our community so that we create models, we create role models whom the young people can emulate from and grow from there. So recognition for me will then begin to speak to creating a viable thank you platform where the community must be willing to celebrate itself and celebrate its own heroes and heroines and create monuments around excellency. And through this exercise, you are able to immortalize your achievements and leave them as a blueprint for the next generation to take over from there, so that the solutions that you have implemented can be thoroughly embedded into the community to create a culture of working, to create a culture of solidarity, to create an environment of unity amongst yourself, recognition, appraisals, celebrations, monuments, awards, to constantly encourage that. That becomes a breeding ground for the next generation leadership. I think for today, we will have covered those few steps in my world of leadership that will actually give us a blueprint. If anyone wants to transform a community, I think within those 5 steps, if not 6 steps, we should be able to at least establish a certain pattern which can be duplicated over and over again. This can happen at an individual place, at an individual space, where you can take these steps and see how do you work with them yourself. You can take this same model again at a family level. How can you set up your own family and use these tools to move your family forward? You can take this same model into a community space and say, how do we, toothpick these issues and implement them to transform our communities? They can be taken over into a national space as a country. How do we strategize and re-evaluate our models of leadership to produce for ourselves a new generation of leadership? Unfortunately, Africa, most of it is being running right now under military leadership, because these are the people who came from war and they went into power. Now they went into power to manage a colonial system, which is giving them headaches, honestly speaking, because you cannot tell me that from holding a gun, the following morning you're a minister of justice, you're a minister of health, you're a minister of, of roads, you're a minister of education, and you know exactly how to run the colonial system. So we are expecting too much from these leaders. They are also colonized, thoroughly colonized, and they came in to become the colonizers themselves. So there's need for detoxification, even at our African governance levels. I've grown up now not to be frustrated, but my way of life is, how do I contribute? How do I assist those that are in power to move and champion the narrative towards these more indigenous conversations? And we can then move over from the nation building strategy into how can we take the same information and now populate it to become an Africa agenda. I see in the future, I see even now the African dream becoming a reality, where Africans are now able to think for themselves, transform themselves, utilize their resources. When it comes to countries such as Congo and etc., we have too many of these minerals. Those minerals are no longer a blessing. They've become a curse. Why are they a curse? Because we don't know how to beneficiate them. We, instead of creating industries, we have become experts of sending out raw materials. The government of Congo needs to hear me very well and loudly. Do it now. Take a few of those diamonds, go to Kenya, go to China, go and buy factories of processing cobalt, making cell phones. You have the raw materials. You have uranium for power. You have platinum. You have coal. So the question is not how much can we dig and give away. The question is, of what we have, how much of it can we create employment for ourselves and create apparatus, utensils, cars, gadgets, using these very raw materials that we have. At the end of the day, by the time all these materials are gone out of Congo, we're going to remain with one big dumping site full of holes everywhere. And the question is, where are you going to live as people of the land? So we need to start thinking more strategically. It's not always about digging and selling. Sometimes we need to say, maybe dig less, beneficiate more. Dig less, beneficiate more. Let the communities start thinking and the governments come on board to make sure that the communities don't get ravished by colonial, raw material, high appetite organizations that don't care about those communities, that would clean up their gold with cyanide, pour it into the Congo River, killing the fish and the people downstream. Who cares? As long as the stock exchange is working for the investor. We need to start thinking also, become environmentally friendly, ecological intelligence. In the midst of our leadership, we need to think best, how do we develop and how do we work together to create the Africa that we need. So we need to build the African dream from an individual, self-management, community leadership, country leadership, continental leadership. And I think Africa has a seat on the global platform of power and influence. If only we knew what we have in our hands, we would not need to borrow as much. I will leave you with a proverb. He who does not know what they have, they will go on to buy what they have.
Thank you so much. Wow. What a powerful first lesson that has been. I think we're all here now with a vision, a new vision for the future of Africa. One where, we're not just digging and selling. One where we're not begging, foreign investors to come in and to do for us what we can do for ourselves. We thank you so much for the tools that you have given us, the new set of leadership tools that we now have. I mean, we have just got to decolonize that mindset of ours, leave all of their old leadership kind of training that we have been given, because now we have been given a completely new, a new way of thinking in terms of how a leadership needs to go about becoming an African leader. And that starts, from us going out there and doing the research on the ground, being amongst the people. If we follow these steps, if every single one of us, because every one of us has leadership potential, some of us will become leaders and maybe some of us won't become leaders. But if we all embrace these tools that we have been given and this mindset and this way of thinking, if we had a new generation of Africans who were applying these steps that we have been given, we could transform Africa, the continent of Africa, within a generation. Dubai did it. There's no reason why Africa can't do it as well. But before we can do it, we've got to have a completely new mindset that embraces our creativity, our resources, our indigenousness, our culture, our environment. Wow. Sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied now, Mapanga. Before we go to the audience, is there anything further that you would like, to add to, the vision that you've given us, of a new Africa? Because, this new Africa has got a whole new generation of leaders now who have done the research or who are doing the research and, are embracing the Africanness, their culture, their indigenous ways, and looking at new creative ways of financing and building what needs to be built at a local level. It's just phenomenal what's happening, what I'm seeing happening on the ground. Let me go back to you maybe before we bring in our audience who have been commenting and embracing what you have been saying and teaching us today.
Just in one capsule that I would share in closing, it is: do not expect anything from leaders. They are just like you. They're just like you. The whole mismatch. Politicians right now are a source of problems. They're not a source of solutions. There's big nuisance in Africa, a big nuisance of problems because they don't bring solutions with them. But we must not blame them because they come from homes where we all come from. They also want the very same things that we also want. They are colonized just the way we are colonized also. So you cannot be spending your lives as Africa changing hyenas with foxes and wonder why sheep are always disappearing, because dogs eat meat. And until we begin to create a new paradigm of young leaders who can begin to take these words of mine and put them into practice, we will be able to realize a transformation, a major transformation in the quality of thinking, quality of parenting. You must know as a parent, you are bringing up leaders. Some of these young boys and girls whom you may undermine running around your kitchen, they are what is coming to run this whole environment. So let this not become just a national conversation, a political conversation. I think it is also a family issue. It's a community issue. When you see a young person as a community leader, stop, assist, plow in, say something to them, encourage them. You never know the impact that has in the short, medium, and long term. It takes time to grow a leader. It takes time to change and transform a mind. And as such, we say in Africa, it takes a village to bring up a child. And I want to say also, it takes a village to bring up a leader. I thank you.
We thank you. Yes, and that leads me on to ask you, what do you think, we need to be doing better as parents in parenting leaders? Because I don't think we're taught really, how to parent leaders, because there are parents today, as you said, who are parenting tomorrow's leaders. So what do we as parents need to be doing better in order to ensure that the leaders of tomorrow are not like the leaders that we've got today?
I think the first thing, I'll give you a very simple answer, the simplest of them all. Every parent must teach their child how to plant a tree. As simple as that. And look after that tree. And learn how to love things growing. How to harvest from their own trees. How to sell from their own trees. How to multiply their trees. How to basic stuff, where many of our young people have an illusion about power, where it's about buying things and etc. Because they don't know where things start. So we need to, maybe in one nutshell, teach your children how natural processes work and assist them to move away from short, quick fix solutions. They need to understand the joy of a 50-year-old tree that is standing, 60-year-old tree that is standing. And as such, you will then master the art, not just always of cutting trees down and planting new ones and cutting trees down. This year, this political party, cut it down, bring another one, cut it down, bring another one, cut it down. America's civilization is 276 years old. One brick on top of another brick on top of Britain, brick on top of Germany, brick upon brick. And in Africa, we are just torn apart with this concept of opposition politics. Who is in power? Let's get him out. Now, next one is in. Let's get him out. Let's get him out. We don't have longevity. We don't have longevity to harvest in an orchard that belongs to us. Trim the branches, but water the roots and harvest the fruit. Learn to appreciate historical wealth that you find within that kind of thought. You don't kill your parents so that you can inherit their bank accounts. You don't do that. You learn how to work with them and grow with them at a certain given time. Then when they pass away, you inherit what they have. A child who burns their father's house, their inheritance is ashes. And any young political party that thinks it can throw away old people, you have nothing to inherit. There is continuity. We're all old people. We will all go where other old people go. And you too, who think is young, you will also go where other old people go. Is Africa going to be a constant battlefield of political parties that lack longevity, continuity? I suggest that we begin to look at how do we incorporate the old regime, the old political guards, the old liberation hero political parties, and as young people gather around them, flood them, learn as much as you can, master this machine, so that the day when you run this machine, you know exactly what to do and how to do. But right now, young people just think that it's a hobby. Get rid of these old guys. We want to get into power. And you want to get into power to do what? With what? For who? And how? You have nothing to learn. You just want to run. We want to go. Where to? No, we want to go. Where to? Where to? And where are we coming from? Where are we and where are we going? And I think it will be very prudent that in the midst of running for the new, we don't undermine the value of the old trees and the fruits that they give us. plant the new ones. But how long does it take the new trees to grow into maturity? And how long does it take an ox that has never been yoked to plow a field? How long does it take to get something from scratch to end? Germany is benefiting from technology from a very ugly past of Hitler. He built that monster organization from World War I and World War II. So there they are standing. China is where it is. There's not a grain of democracy. You know, Arab Emirates, you create your own models of what works, But for us to think that everything that is European, that is American and British, and listen to the lies of the Europeans and Americans lying to us that democracy will work in Africa. When if democracy works in Africa, question, Shanice, if democracy works, then why did we fight for it? Why didn't you give us for free? Why did we fight? If this was the best model of governance, then why did 54 countries fight to be democratic? And then after that, you want to come and lecture to us how to become democratic. There's nothing democratic about it. No one has shed power without spilling blood. And the honest truth, every time you prepare for peace, you must be preparing for war. So we need to be more prudent into finding our own indigenous solutions around our own problems. And if you want to grow leadership, teach them patience, teach them farming, teach them loving, teach them respect, give them responsibilities, and reward them for doing good things, rebuke them, plant them, share them with other relatives, let them learn as much as they can. And I wish I could also maybe do a fundraising project. I want to build a palace. I've started already, where you can bring up your children, they can stay for some few weeks, for some few months, and share some information. You have an academy of training, farmers of thought concept, and I'm not getting younger, but I think I still have a few years in my bones, and I would want to spend those last few years towards building African systems and see how best I could assist the next generation of leaders. I thank you.
Oh, we thank you. You heard it, family. Our King wants to be investing into the minds and the hearts of young people to help groom them for the future, and is looking to do that building work. So if we can assist in any way, if you have any skills, talents, any loose funding, that you can put his way, let me encourage you, really encourage you to do that. I'm going to ask everyone in the audience if you can come up with some ideas for monumental recognition. King talked about, the importance of rewards and recognizing, giving recognition to those who have contributed something significant towards their community and towards their society. And this is really important. And we can see all over the Western world, they have all of their reward systems in place. As we move forward with our new Indigenous way of doing things, we're going to need, our King was saying, ways of saying thank you to those who have contributed. We're in a system at the moment where, people just leave all their money, their millions and their billions in their bank accounts. They'll never spend it throughout their lifetime. They could be doing something of significance with those funds and be contributing towards, say, the palace that King has just talked about that he needs. And they could have their name on the palace. They will be remembered, for centuries, because that building will still be standing there in their name. So we need to be, thinking about how we can immortalize, people's gifts and what they do to encourage them to want to contribute towards doing something for their community. This Western way of just saving and accumulating billions and millions in your bank account that you'll never spend, that has got to change. We're all, not all, but many of us are parenting. We've just heard now, what we could be doing in order for us to be grooming the minds and the characters of those young people towards leadership, planting trees, enabling them to see how long it takes for it to grow and appreciate loving the environment and the trees and the fruits that it gives, and making them learn how they can even earn from those trees. We've all got a role to play. So let's get your ideas regarding monuments and how we can encourage people, what we could be doing to be giving back to people with the millions in their bank account, to get them to want to contribute towards their community. I think that would be really good. The Academy, I wonder if you could share with us a bit more your vision for this Academy, your vision for teaching the next generation, because the new concept, the new models that you're giving us and the next generation is so, so needed. I think we'll all agree after 60 years of democracy that it just doesn't work for Africa. It wasn't intended to work for Africa. We know that. And anyway, we've tried it for 60 years. It doesn't work. Africa needs something new. It needs a new model. And, we're seeing a new model in the vision that you're giving us here. So share with us a bit more about the Academy and how that Academy could significantly contribute towards building, and shaping the minds of the next generation who would be responsible for implementing this new model, please.
It's a different space altogether. Academy or school will sound more like the same. I'm talking of a palace. I want to bring up royal children. I want to bring up princes and princesses, queens and kings, learning ways of the past, indigenous knowledge systems, and in the environment must be altogether royal, rather than primitive, Eurocentric factory of minds where people are just reciting and regurgitating. It must be a place where people can learn how to use their hands, use their brains. I mean, if you look at what the Aristotles, the Platos, and the rest of them have done, what the Sadhgurus and the rest of the other guys are doing in India, those kind of spaces, the Indians are teaching each other. They have their own gurus who are right now world-renowned, who walk around the continents and sharing their views of what the worldview of the Indians is like. And Europe has given us the Platos and the rest of them. We last had them in Africa here in the times of the Alexanders. And right now we have our old people here and there. But I feel like we lack an institutionalized indigenous knowledge hub where other teachers from other parts of Africa can come to the palace and share royal knowledge. There's no one who will walk out of that school and walk out as a peasant. It is a royal training, a royal academy, a royal platform, a royal palace where you simply come to absorb and learn, to look at the past so that you can look at the future. Basically, it is a watcher's view, looking backwards so that we can see the future. It is a place of indigenous foods, indigenous music and instruments, indigenous, crafts making and etc. And inside these things, be able to start decoding the language, like you see my beautiful hat you put on your picture there on the side, the language of the ancestors, the diet of those hats, the medicines that are in those hats, the architecture in those hats, the spirituality that is in. There's lots of information. You could take 6 months to a year just to unpack that hat as you look at it on your picture right there, because that speaks to medicine, that speaks to diet, that speaks to cosmology, that speaks to, so much. There's so much that we can go on and on. And it's a knowledge which, if many of us should go away right now, unfortunately will go away with it. And I'm feeling very selfish that before I close my eyes, I needed to have shared some of this information. Basically, to be a place where kings can send me their children, and yes, kings and queens, they can send their children, and we can sit down and share and interact, and then send them back into places of work. We hope that when you come there as a student, you will carry yourself also with the royal dignity that it deserves, so that we can actually detox our minds and create a new paradigm. I thank you.
We thank you so much. Off the Grid is saying that he's really loving the palace concept already, and he's open to making a monetary donation towards it. And so, we just lost our king there. Oh, great, you're back. Yeah, and so please do, if you can, put in the chat how people can make monetary contributions towards this palace concept. You know, if you can put any account details in there, that your account details in there, that would be great. If you don't have it to hand, if you let me have it, I can put it in the description under this video, and then you know, anyone who wants to contribute Off the Grid, you know, I'll make sure it's posted at the bottom of this video, so that you will be able to make that donation, that monthly donation towards the palace concept. Wow, I'm seeing all of these beautiful princes and princesses in their noble royal attire, and they're just in a space where they can be creative and inventive and innovative, and wow, all their greatness that's, you know, trapped and locked up inside of them in the pooling system that we have all over the world at the moment. The Western so-called schooling pooling system, you know, is locking up in our children. It sounds a beautiful, beautiful concept. Let's see what others are saying about it, shall we, King? And what others have got to say. So, yeah, there's been a couple of comments about the importance of changing the mindset. And, you know, that speaks to all of what you've been saying here today, the importance of us decolonizing our minds. Elizabeth is saying, you know, royal innovators, not colonial duplicators. Absolutely. Dee is saying that Africa should develop its own currency and don't wait for the world to do it. Is that something we ought to be doing? We've just lost King Maponga there. As you know, there are shedding problems happening where he is, but hopefully he will be right back with us soon. And so we'll put that question, Didi, about Africa developing its own currency and having its own currency, because, yeah, having control of our own currency, I'm sure King would agree, is very, very important. But we need to be thinking of that from our own perspective as well. We've got gold, we've got diamonds, we could be making our own currency out of our own minerals. Could we not? We're thinking creatively now. What do you say the vision is or ought to be around our currency, Mapongo?
I think maybe that one we can spare it on one of the programs itself, the mobilization of African economy towards the United Kingdoms of Africa. I think we put it on the program. You can actually share the subjects with the team, then they can also anticipate how our lectures will be structured. But I think the concept of a united Africa and the benefits of it, they're quite outlined. You can access one of my books that I've put out there, African Questions and African Solutions. It's now available, I think, on Takealot and Amazon. You would find quite an extensive work that I have submitted there in line with African currency, which is backed up by our resources. One African marketplace, stock exchange, where we can determine the prices of our own minerals. And some minerals like gold, we don't even need to dig them. There is technology now that can quantify the gold underneath the ground. And we can walk to the bank and get the money equivalent to the gold itself and do what we want to do without digging a single ounce of gold out of the ground, only to end up in the palace of the Queen somewhere in Britain, who eats gold. So we can just take a little bit that we need for cosmetic use and machinery use. But the rest of it right now, the scramble for digging up gold is not sustainable because you're not digging it to use it for anything. We would rather be talking about iron, tin, and other minerals which are actually making gadgets. But the biggest vandalizer of the ground is gold, which is a non-functional commodity, except that it is the backup of a currency. So why dig it up only to bury it back in the ground again? Why not keep it where it is and then use the value in the ground as a source of fundraising money with sureties and bond monies in international organizations and beyond, where if I say I have 300,000 tons of gold underneath my ground and geologically you can prove it is so, then why not give me the investment equivalent to what I have? And if I fail to pay you with the business plan that I have, then I can cut a bit of that. Then you can come and mine, or you can own a bit of that. I think that's the new generation way of doing business that we need to start thinking. We don't want to end up with a big hole like they did in Kimberley, and all the diamonds have disappeared. All we have now is a museum where you go there to go and see a hole, a biggest man-made hole in the world. But the question is not how big is the hole. The question is what happened to the diamonds inside that hole.
What happened to them?
Maybe
bury them somewhere else.
Anglo-American, De Beers and Oppenheimers, they can tell us. But basically they disappeared.
Wow. And the people haven't seen any of the benefit of it. Brother Kwame is saying that we need to build more of our own schools and colleges so that we can teach our history and our languages more to our children ourselves. We've heard the vision of the palace. This needs to be duplicated and replicated, wherever we are. We're up against it, are we not, with the westernized colonial education that we're all getting everywhere, when it's just not suited for our purpose at all. It's just not fit for our purpose.
I think if we can, once we build the model, it should be easy then to duplicate it. The danger of us just saying build the royal schools, they will end up again becoming schools where the same curriculum, the same mindset again we are trying to undo will end up being reinforced. So the question is, we may need to have maybe a conference with some royalties at a later time where we can come together and we can see how best we can assist each other to create. But I already have the blueprint, which I should be able to put on the ground and give it a test run. Then from there we can see how do we affiliate all other royal houses around that. I would mind to have the first royal academy in Africa for developing and training kings and queens. We cannot just be fantasizing Nzinga and Nefertiti and in the past. Someone must intentionally get into the business of producing this, what we know. This is the kind of information I want to see children learning. Our royalties in the past. How did Mansa Musa mine that gold? How did he become the richest man? And how did we build the temples of Ethiopia? What is the technology and science of the great Zimbabwe? What tools did they use for cutting those stones and rocks and etc.? What science is did they use for digging those minerals and etc. So for me, it's quite a lot. Potteries with stonework, crafts, and all these things. And for me, it's not just about crafts; it's decoding the information that is actually incumbent in these technologies, which has not been explored totally, not been explored. We have stones that have currency and power. We have instincts of hunting and etc. We have knowledge of roots and technologies. We can harvest rain and hold winds. But what are we doing with all this knowledge? Most of it has been relegated into witchcraft. But if you look at that word carefully, it's not witchcraft as a noun. It is a question. Which craft is this? Because even aircrafts, it's craft. It's aircraft. So they were seeing black people doing their things and they asked, which craft is this? And I think if we can also study the craft of our ancient fathers, the craft of brain surgeries which were done in Africa here way before, crafts of teaching young girls how to run and control their family planning using beads around their waistlines, crafts, of child spacing, family planning. Do we need all these tablets and etc.? What technologies are there? Midwifery stories. How do we learn to? So for me, it's and we still have a few old people who are in the communities there who have this knowledge, and we may need to move slightly faster to harvest it, to preserve the next generation. The knowledge of the stars, beautiful knowledge systems that, the Shango bones, the first calculators ever created on the face of the earth, and how with playing those traditional games, stones 2 by 2 by 4 by 6 by 8 by 9, calculating mathematical games. Unlike soccer, where there's a group of people are chasing a skin of a dead ox, and who learns anything from chasing a skin of an ox? We have intelligent games, which, if they are restored, we could actually begin to see mathematical mindsets, innovative mindsets, scientific mindsets, beginning to play into formulas of architecture. How do you do rectangles, squares, and triangles for shaping up roofs? All these acute angles, 90 degrees and etc. All those African huts are mathematical formulas. We build a house without a plan. We just put a piece of rope here and geometry. It's readily there. But the question is, who has taken all this information into mainstream so that we can also come to the table as scientific, as they are scientific, as medical, they're also medical, as astrological. We even have names for not for aeroplanes. We have names for rockets that we have in Shona. Chitundu Mutsere Mutsere. So how did we know these Chitundu Mutsere Mutseres unless we have had an experience in the past? Look at the masks that we have in Congo and in Northwest Africa, showing you pictures of aliens and all those things. Are these just dreams and visions, or people are actually reminding us of the historical encounter with some of these shapes, figures, and faces? I think for me, this is knowledge. This is just knowledge, which the questions that must be asked so that the young minds can gallop into the vastness of knowledge without fear or prejudice. We should learn our DNA, how the old ladies know this child belongs to this house. 4 old ladies sitting around, looking into the palms, looking into the ears, tracing up the toes. This looks like this. The traits of this family are like this, are like this. Can you check also? She checks also. She checks also. Number 3, 4 checks. They can confirm this child belongs to us or they don't belong to us. Take the child to the kraal and leave them there for some few minutes and etc. If the cows tremble on them, they don't belong to this house. If the cows don't tremble on them, they belong to... What kind of science is that? What technology is that? And what relationship do we have with our animals? Get to Sudan and see the Maasai people, the relationship with their cows. Man, Madam Shanice, I almost feel like
Wow.
I almost feel like I'm sitting in a lecture room now in the Royal Palace where there is so much. There is so much.
Yeah, yeah. You've outlined, and kind of shared for us there what our African educational curriculum ought to look like, what the content of it ought to be. And we do need to get something like this in place very quickly. And I certainly hope that, there are kings out there that are going to assist you to build this palace, so that we could actually have, the young kings and queens, the young princes and princesses coming through that palace so that they can become the kings and queens of tomorrow in the regions. Off the Grid is saying that he doesn't even want to have children until he can form a different system to the Western system, because he doesn't want any of his children spending years having to unlearn the brainwashing of the Western ideology. So Off the Grid, we need you multiplying. We need you bringing children into the world with the right mindset. So we need your palace open very soon.
Let's build it. Let's build it. Let's build it.
Let's build it. Off the Grid, we need you involved in this. We are the ones who are going to have to build it. Do we have people who are going to assist in that building? I'd be happy to get involved. Just imagine if I could contribute towards something like that. It would be phenomenal.
We should before we join our ancestors, we should be able to do one of these programs from the palace. In our old age, we should be able to say we spoke about it, and here it has come to pass. It has come to pass. I believe it will happen in my lifetime. It will happen in my lifetime.
We've got a challenge there, family, to make it happen during our lifetime. Let's all contribute towards the building of this educational palace. It sounds phenomenal. It's just taken me back to a point in time, when we were learning the old way, where we really learned. And from what we learned,
from what we have said so far, if out of 1,000 people watching the program, if each one can give us a brick, just a brick, which is like 5 or 10 cents, it's a start. It's a start. We'll put up a block. Another 5 cents, 10 cents, we'll put up a block. We're not asking for millions of dollars. You will work with what we have, and it's a community project, and as such, it must not be just luxury, but it must be functional.
And you'll let us know where we can send the brick money to, so that we can contribute towards the building of this brick. Yeah. And so give us your account details afterwards, and I'll post it.
I suggest we work from your. I suggest we work from your side, because we are in the international space. Then we will, while we are putting our house in order on the continent here, then we can keep people briefed as to how far are their contributions, and when the contributions are ready, we can see how we can now move it into Africa and get the plans are almost there in terms of the design. I'm designing it according to the old Zimbabwe ruins, the Great Zimbabwe ruins concept. Wow. So we're putting it all around to recreate that ancient civilization and be able to take the modern students and royalties through those stone walls. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Well, family, on the strap line there, you can see a PayPal account details. Just put in a reference, Royal Palace. Okay, so you can make your brick contribution to the PayPal account, Trip with Sister Shanice, and put Royal Palace in the reference, okay? And I will ensure that reaches its destination, okay? Let's all, every single one of us who are watching, make a contribution of a brick towards that palace, and your name and your contribution will be forwarded. And in some of these really old universities, you've got that wall with all the names of the contributors. Maybe we can have something like that in the palace, where there's a golden wall with the names of all the contributors, and that your name will be there and immortalized in that palace, you know, for centuries to come. So make sure you contribute a brick that's going to have your name on it in that palace. So just send it to that PayPal account, and I'll ensure that that reaches our Baba Maponga. So it was suggested also that we not only build the building, but we choose the right teachers and lecturers. So I'm sure you've given some thought to that already. I think I would hope, you know, you would be training personally, even training the lecturers and providing some teacher training programs, because wow, you know, this is a whole new curriculum based on ancestral knowledge, as you said, of cosmology, astrology, medicine, architecture, mathematics, science, you know. That's knowledge, I think, that is going to have to be spiritually downloaded into people, because we're not learning it anywhere at the moment. Any thoughts around that, Baba Maponga?
No, it's a vision and a dream that I have kept for some couple of years now, and I think it's mature to run. We have a huge farm that my grandfather left for us here. There's enough space. There is even gold on the farm. So I've built the first two huts. The one that I was born in, the Roundavel that I was born in, quite a sacred space. I decided to make sure that my landing strip is there, and first of all put up the first few, the villages I had it. So because I know once I recreate it, at least I'll be able to tap into the historical activities that happened around that homestead, so that the seasons and the times and the knowledge system will come in more naturally. So I want to create a habitable cultural space which I was brought up in correctly, and be able to allow other people also to experience that kind of an environment and share experiences. Yes, we already have King Bungane, who is on standby to support. We have Princess Bikira, who is great with the sacred sites and knowledge systems. We have Magagula, brilliant homeopathy specialist. We have Gogom Swenning, South Africa, genius in terms of indigenous medicines and stuff like that. And the list goes on with another Muzondida, a sculpture of note. Just a minute, I'll show you something. I'll show you something that I got yesterday.
Okay, wow, family. Are you hearing this? A phenomenal opportunity for us to be part of something quite historical, something major, something that, you know, we in our generation can help contribute towards building the foundations of for the next generation, so that, you know, something that we can talk about to our grandchildren about what we contributed towards doing. It's something that we can point to. Wow. Okay, let's have a look at this. Woo.
So it will be possible that when you come to the school, you will be able to graduate with your knowledge systems in already built into your thinking tool. I'll block off another lecture and take you through the symbols and etc. of the thinking tool that we have there. But all these elements that you see there are centers of knowledge, and how do you apply yourself to decode the information that is placed on a stick like this. This is a kind of knowledge that when I hold this stick in my hand, I'm literally holding a whole library in my hand. And if I should start lecturing on this, I need another 14 hours to take you through just the stick. So for me, we will be able to capture some of this knowledge which is disappearing slowly and place it into the hands of the young people as they go out. You're not going to graduate with anything. I'll give you a walking stick and you can walk away from the palace. You are qualified, but you must earn it. You must earn it. You must study it. You must understand it and unpack it. And it should be exciting. It should be very exciting.
It sounds exciting indeed. Well, time has run away with us. We are just 5 minutes away from the top of the hour. We've been talking about what it takes to be a great African leader. We have been given a whole new way of thinking, tools that will enable us to start thinking, about the steps that we need to take towards leadership. Baba Maponga, I wonder if you could just summarize for us very briefly those steps, those important steps towards becoming, a great African leader. And now, well, let me ask you to just briefly summarize for us,
I think
please.
You were taking notes. It would be nice for you to take us
For
through.
me to summarize. Okay, let me take you through my notes then.
I was speaking from my heart. So
Oh, wow. Were you really? Oh my gosh, phenomenal. Okay, well, what we were learning today, family, is, well, first of all, is that, we're all called to leadership in one way or another. We're actually born a leader. Some of us work towards becoming a leader. We put in all of the effort to learn about leadership. And some of us just have leadership thrust upon us. But in one way or another, there are many of us who could end up in a leadership position. And we went into some detail about those who are born into leadership, those who are learning leadership and studying to become a leader, and the third set of leadership as well. So we laid the foundations there. Then we went on to talk about the greatness of leadership and that is involved in understanding your role as a leader, which is about understanding your people. So in order for you to then take on your role of leadership, you have to understand your people. And in order to do that, you have to get off of what some people might be sitting on as a high horse and gather your social intelligence information. So you have to go into the community and sit with the young people, sit with the elders, sit with the women who are on the farms, the people who are doing the farming, the taxi drivers. You have to do the groundwork to plug into your community to get an understanding of what the needs are of your community, because you're not in a position as a leader to come up with solutions to the problems if you don't understand the problems. And you've got to do the social intelligence gathering to get that information at first hand. Then the next step is the personal journey. Once you've gathered all of that information, you've got to decolonize your own mind, and so it's the decolonization programming that needs to kick in, because in terms of coming up with the solutions to the problems that you've just identified, don't come with the old Western colonized way of thinking. You've got to now think about what are the indigenous ways of doing things? What are the cultural ways of doing things? How can we, contextualize everything within an indigenous setting? And so that's really important. And bringing the people along with you so that they are part of the solutions as well is very, very important. So the solutions have got to be set within the context of our culture, within the context of our indigenous ancient ways, within the context of a decolonized mindset. A lot more could be said about that. Then the next step is about mobilization. So once we've got the concepts and the indigenous ways that we're going to bring solution to the problems, we've got to mobilize the people. We've got to organize the teams of professionals within their scientific, educational, industrial, all their specific skill set. We have to have those professionals, those movers and shakers, and those technocrats who are on side, ready to work alongside us as leaders and helping us to drive forward and to implement these new indigenous and cultural ways of actually bringing about the solutions to the problem. So mobilization. And then how are we going to find it? That's the economic funding model. And we had some brilliant ideas about funding from a community level, a family level, to a national level way of funding. And there was a whole new vision that we were given there for raising funds. And it's about being creative and inventive about fundraising without even needing to look outside for any financial assistance. And then, of course, if people are doing all of this great work and we want to be able to bring people along with us the way that, our ancient leaders were able to do, because, to be able to get thousands and thousands of people working alongside you to build the pyramids or the great walls of Zimbabwe, for example, you've got to be able to reward people. And it's about coming up with ideas of giving recognition to those people who have contributed significantly towards the building of the vision and the new towns and the new cities and the new kingdoms of the future. So we were given a whole new model, tools for the model, a whole new concepts. We've thrown out this old antiquated democratic system that doesn't work for Africa, and we're now looking at how we can utilize the skills of all of our talents within our communities and how leaders can do that. How did I do?
Excellent. 10 out of 10.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. The family, I didn't even do it justice. You'll have to watch the video for yourself if you tuned in late. Aba King Maponga, we are honored again. We've learned so much from you. We want to contribute towards building this palace. We want to contribute towards the vision. We want to contribute towards instilling, the indigenous way of thinking, our ancient way of thinking into the mindset of our young people. And I hope that, if there's 1,000, as you said, listening, if even 100 people were to say, I want to get on board, I want to help and assist, let's make it happen, family. We have got to be the change that we want to see. We certainly hope that we will be seeing you again on the platform, King, because we want to be working with you. More love. Let's give you a final couple of words to say goodbye to our audience.
We live but once, and what will you want to be remembered for? I think this is a legacy project, and let's do something. And your children and your grandchildren and your grandchildren, even if you will not see them, but they will see you and they will know you, and they will respect you for having left for them, left some footprints in the sand of life, so that they can also follow suit. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be of service to the community, and thank you very much for availing your platform for this conversation. I say.
Thank you so much. To everyone in the audience, thank you so much for watching. Please do seriously consider contributing towards the palace. Every little help. You can use the PayPal account, put in a reference, palace funds, your name will be somewhere in this new palace. Okay, let's make it happen. Thank you, everybody. Everyone in the chat is saying thank you to you, King. Thank you so much. Sister Shanice out of here for now. More love, more strength, more power to each and every one of you. See you next strong. Bye for now.